Do you need some help?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my Westworld Season 3 Episode 1 video. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs. They've obviously changed a bunch about what they've done with the series, the narrative style, so we'll break it all down. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. I will be doing episode videos for all the episodes this season. Careful for spoilers. If you have not seen the episode yet, obviously, we'll do top 10 WTF and Easter eggs as we go along. Starting with number 10, the new intro and the new simplified narrative timeline. The title of the episode is Parce Domini, which is Latin for Spare us, Lord, spare your people, which I think is a reference to Dolores later in the episode when she talks about the real gods coming soon, referring to the hosts coming soon. She only has 5 cortexes that she brought with her, those little memory balls that she stole off the park last season. The idea is that she's using those to sort of take control in the world, also using the Insight machine. I'll talk about that too, because obviously the giant-looking cortex looks just like the memory balls that they put inside the hosts' heads, as if it were one giant big host god governing everyone in the world. The new intro itself seems like it's more about the birth and evolution of their new cybernetic species, as Dolores also says during the episode. You also see a lot of imagery for Rehoboam, which is the name of that giant machine that they were talking about through the episode. As you probably noticed, the narrative timeline is much more linear than it was during Season 2. It's meant to be way simpler to follow as a show. So if you felt like Season 2 was really hard to follow and unnecessarily confusing in the way they told the story, they tried to get rid of all that for Season 3. The cool transitions that they had, that white graphic readout, is just the Rehoboam system, that giant machine doing its thing. But number 9, WTF, the opening scene in Burma, off the coast of Westworld and the other parks. So the episode picks up on the Asian coastland. Presumably it's just a little while after the end of Season 2, not much time has gone by. We meet a really rich businessman that seemingly has a big financial interest in Delos and the Insight Company, which is why Dolores targeted him. Also, he has history with her, which she says later in the episode. We've actually met before, as she makes him relive a lot of his own worst memories about beating his wife, because we learned during Season 2 the big secret of the park is that they were actually using the park to make big backup copies of every person that would visit. That's what she was referring to when she said, "I've read your book." The book is like that memory cortex that they put in the host, except it's based for a real person. There's also a lot of irony in the way they show you what daily life is like for a lot of these people, how much technology they rely on to do their daily tasks. You notice that the symbol for the Insight Company, too, also looks a lot like the maze from Season 1 and Season 2 of Westworld, the maze that the hosts used to try and gain consciousness so that they could jump their loops. She deals out some really twisted justice when she steals his money, his files on Insight that she needs to enact her plan, and then also tricks him into accidentally killing himself the way he killed his first wife. So number 8, we meet Aaron Paul's character, Caleb. He's just sort of this regular working schlub. He's meant to be this military vet who's dealing with all this post-traumatic stress. They spent a lot of time during his storyline talking about programs and loops, because the way they're trying to portray the real world is that they're all just regular people who are also stuck on a loop the same way that the hosts were stuck on loops in Westworld. So real people have kind of turned into robots the way that the hosts are actual robots. So through the episode, his character goes through sort of a quicker version of what happens to the host during Season 1 of Westworld, where they travel the maze, they achieve consciousness, and they're able to throw their loops. Like later in the episode, he says, in order to move forward, quote-unquote, jump his loop, he needs to find someone real. And the irony of that is that he runs into Dolores, who's actually a cybernetic being, although technically, if you think about it, she is a real person. I love the fact that he has a Tinder-style app for crime that pairs him with other criminals to take jobs. It's kind of like combining a version of Tinder with a version of Uber. I'm looking for somewhere to do crime. Where can I do that and earn some money? Number 7, WTF, welcome back Charlotte, who's now in control of the Delos board. We're not quite sure which memory ball she has inside her, so we don't know which host she actually is, but it's not really Charlotte, it's really one of the other hosts. She's taking Delos private and ramping up production on hosts as part of Dolores' plan, because she intends on using all those hosts to take over the mainland, so she needs them to start building an army of hosts that she can use. They make a really quick reference to the Insight algorithm and how much people depend on it for their strategy in making decisions. Some of the board members really hate the decision, but then Charlotte looks over and asks the algorithm what it thinks of her plan, and it says it's a good plan. So they're like, well, see, the algorithm told us it was good, so we're going to go ahead and do it. They also imply later in the episode that there's some sort of relationship between Delos and the Insight Company, and we also learn about Sarek, the person that designed the Rehoboam giant device that's predicting all these things. It seems like he's somehow connected to Ford and the Man in Black, because if he designed this giant system, that seems like there's a connection between that and what's going on with the software and the programming at Westworld. I think that'll become more clear in episode 2. He doesn't actually show up till episode 2. Sarek is a character that's just talked about during episode 1, but it is Vincent Cassell's character. Number 6 WTF, welcome back Bernard. So he shows up in a field farming at what we find out is a slaughterhouse, seeming like he's just hiding out trying to counteract what Dolores is doing. But he's also found this weird way to somehow switch between his different personas. So there's like his base level of programming as a host that has all of his crazy abilities and functions. Then there's the layer of programming of his Bernard personality. So they're doing this very Marvel Avengers Endgame thing where he's found a way to switch between being Banner and the Hulk instantly just by pressing that little red button, which he does later in the episode after the coworkers find him out and he has to kill them. He even kind of talks to himself a little bit, his other persona. Please don't hurt them too much. Number 5 WTF, Dolores' new mission to infiltrate Insight. I love the futuristic looking Audis, but we find out that she's actually pulling a fast one on John Gallagher Jr. I don't know what his character's name is or who his father is. In the credits, it doesn't list what the name of his character is, but he's being tailed by a company fixer played by Tommy Flanagan. We also don't know what his character's name is yet either. But John Gallagher Jr. is the son of one of the founders of the Insight Company and one of the people that helped make this Rehoboam device that Dolores really wants to gain access to. So when this scene picks up, she's been playing him for around 3 months or so. I love the really sinister way that they film the Rehoboam device when they're seeing it up close and personal for the first time. Like it really is meant to represent this giant godlike creation. So if Dolores thinks of herself as a god, it'll be funny to see these two gods battle it out when Dolores starts interacting with it. Here's the thing though, there are a lot of biblical references and Easter eggs during the episode. Rehoboam was a biblical figure that was the son of King Solomon, the grandson of King David, and he was the king that presided over the civil war that saw the tribes of Israel break off. He formed the kingdom of Judah, so he reigned over this really crazy, chaotic period in Israel's history. I think part of the irony in naming the device Rehoboam is that its ability to predict a path for everyone is meant to prevent that kind of chaos and civil war, but Dolores is actually going to try and use it to do just that, start a new civil war. Number 4, welcome to Westworld Mantis. So you probably recognize Mantis, Pom Klementieff, from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies from Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. It sounds like she's working for Delos, the way that she talks to John Gallagher Jr.'s character. They find out someone's been trying to gain access to the Rehoboam system. Obviously it's Dolores, but no one's quite figured it out yet till later in the episode when Dolores allows them to figure out because it's all part of her plan. This is where things really start to go off the rails and get really cool. Number 3 WTF, Dolores lets herself be captured by the Insight people in order to replace Tommy Flanagan as a host. I thought they played it pretty good during this scene. They make you think that they pulled a fast one on Dolores. They got her when really she was allowing them to do this whole time. They think her plan was to lure John Gallagher Jr.'s character out to do something to him, but really the person that she was luring out was Tommy Flanagan's character to replace him as a host. That's where this point under the bridge was, that's where that happened, and also where she ran into Caleb, so I'm not quite sure if she meant to draw Caleb out or if that's just a chance encounter. I think we're meant to assume that it's a chance encounter. She wasn't expecting to find Caleb there. She was really just there to try and get Tommy Flanagan's character so that she could plant a host inside Insight. I thought they did a good job of telegraphing how Caleb was going to take a job on his little crime app that would also put him in Dolores' path. But I love the way the rest of the big battle played out. Some of you probably sensed where this was going pretty early on. They try to jab her up with a bunch of chemicals, then she just immediately takes them all out. The frame zooms in on the dashboard camera, and you just see all the action take place on that display as she runs over a couple of security guards, takes over another one, then goes after Tommy Flanagan's character. You also notice that when she calls, quote unquote, the other technology to activate it in the area to help her out, she says, "wake up," as if she's talking to the technology like the motorcycle, as if it's alive. Real badass takedowns. We find out that Tommy Flanagan's character visited the park at one point, which is how Dolores got a backup of his mind in order to create a host version of him. Number 2 WTF, then Caleb finds Dolores and tries to help her, so that sort of sets them on the same path. And in the trailer for next week's episode, he says, "I'm with her." So he kind of becomes the new version of Teddy, but they also kind of imply, because she took one of Teddy's memory cortexes, that she put Teddy inside one of the other hosts too. In number 1 WTF, obviously, Bernard goes back to Westworld to find Maeve, and we get the post-credit scene revealing that Maeve is inside a park version of World War II. Remember, there's still a lot of other parks that we haven't visited yet. We'll probably see some of the rest of those this season. So even though a lot of the action of Season 3 will take place in the real world, some stuff will still be happening back at the park. And it sounds like everyone is going to try and use Maeve and some of the other hosts like Bernard to stop Dolores. So it's going to be a little bit of a civil war happening between the hosts too. You may have also spotted the cameos from Marshawn Lynch. That was actually a pretty obvious one, but the Game of Thrones producers, Dan and Dave, also guest starred during the episode. They were more of a background cameo, but if you spotted any other big Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't include in the video, just write them below in the comments, and everyone just post your general reactions on the episode. My episode 2 video will post next Sunday night, so while you wait for everything, click here for that brand new Marvel Spider-Man 3 movie announcement video, and click here for the brand new Boys Season 2 trailer with new footage and new characters. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, I'll see you guys tonight.